The two Cunard queens meet again for a royal rendezvous, and something mind-blowing is happening to the Queen Mary. Work on the bridge wings is underway. Miles of teak handrails have been restored. A major Art Deco lounge is returning after 58 years, and it includes the restoration of an original 1936 elevator. All of this and much, much more on this crazy annual repair update of the RMS Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. You'll want to keep watching till the end. We'll start with important safety repairs, then I'll tell you about all of the major work that happened last year in 2025, and then the work happening right now as this video is published, and finally, we'll end the video with a look into the future restoration projects on the ship. If you're new to this channel, you've probably heard or read about the doom and gloom reports of the ship being terribly deteriorated and at risk of capsizing. However, all those reports are completely out of date and in some cases entirely false. In 2018, the entire fire suppression system aboard the ship was overhauled, a project that costed over $5 million. This included the replacement of over 5,000 sprinkler heads, miles of sprinkler pipes, brand new fire extinguishers and emergency hoses, as well as a tune-up for the original 1936 fire doors designed to seal off parts of the ship and choke the fire. Not to mention that even though the ship is covered in wood, it is a proprietary type of fire-resistant wood paneling that was invented specifically for the Queen Mary in the 1930s. Down below decks, in 2023, 11 brand new bilge pumps and water intrusion alarms were installed, designed to detect and automatically pump out high volumes of water from inside the ship in the unlikely scenario of major flooding. A computer model determined that 2 of the watertight bulkheads needed modification to slow the progression of flooding in that scenario, and so the work was done and completed before the ship reopened. That same year, a custom-built emergency generator was installed on the dock with electrical lines that feed into the ship. The generator is powerful enough to not only keep emergency lights and systems on during a power outage, but it can also power all 11 bilge pumps at the same time. As for whether the ship is at risk of capsizing, several hull inspections took place between 2021 and 2024, and though the worst was expected, the reality of the ship's condition was much better than anyone could have predicted. 2 different marine engineering firms inspected the ship separately, Elliott Bay Design Group and Longitude. Divers went underwater and inspected the hull using ultrasound to detect things their eyes could not see. Despite the ship not having been dry docked since 1969, her hull plates still average 1 inch thick, and inspectors noted little to no corrosion to speak of. This is due in part to the extensive hull protection put in place during her last dry dock, which included an extra thick layer of anti-fouling paint and the installation of sacrificial cathodic anodes, which were designed to self-sacrifice in order to prevent corrosion of the ship's steel. This system has been kept in good order over the decades, and as a result, it has protected the ship. The breakwater that surrounds the Queen Mary has kept the water still and calm, which has prevented any major corrosion on the waterline. Though the ship's boilers and machinery were almost entirely removed during the conversion to a hotel, engineers were smart enough to ballast the ship's double-bottom tanks with low-oxygen drilling mud, which made up for the loss of weight from the machinery. In 2024, the ballast tanks were emptied one by one to inspect them. They found no corrosion, because in the 1930s, the builders of the ship coated all the metal in the tanks with pitch to protect it from seawater corrosion when the tanks were full of ballast. And when the tanks were recently inspected, they found that the pitch is still fully covering the steel. And when stress tests were performed on the structure of the ship, it was found that her hull and structure are within normal stress ranges, meaning that there is no significant misalignment of weight distribution. So when newspapers were printing stories that it was estimated to cost $280 million to restore the ship, that number was anticipating significant work on the hull. But since the hull is in such remarkably good shape, the ship's restoration costs are expected to be only a third of the original estimate. This serves as a reminder that the ship is not designed like a lot of modern vehicles today. Back then, everything was built to last. The Queen Mary was over-engineered to a degree in some ways we would not design for passenger ships today. And so to reiterate rumor control, the ship is not sitting in the mud, she is floating and will rise and fall with the tides. She is not ballasted with concrete, she is ballasted with drilling mud to make inspections easier to perform. The Queen Mary's hull plates are still twice as thick as the minimum thickness of the hull plates on a cruise ship. She is not leaking any seawater. In fact, she has never leaked any seawater in her entire history. The Queen Mary is not at risk of flooding and capsizing. She never was. And after the inspections and the installation of new automatic bilge pumps, she's certainly not expected to flood and capsize in the future. All the kitchens on the ship were revamped in late 2023. They have all new equipment and look pristine again. They are kept so clean that any professional chef would be satisfied. These are just some of the key and critical safety repairs and inspections that were done in recent years, but if you want to know more about them or know about restorations to the historical features of the ship that have been done since 2023, please watch my previous annual construction updates. But now, let's get into all the work that was done last year, 2025. The officers' quarters on Sports Deck reopened in early 2025 after a restoration to repair and seal roof leaks that damaged the ceiling and stained the carpet. The exhibits themselves got a light refreshing, and now the officers' quarters exhibit is looking fantastic. On the outer deck areas, the teak planks of the deck tennis court were restored and properly sealed after inspecting the steel deck underneath. The forward sun deck wraparound area had its decks restored. These are the original 1936 teak. The scuppers, davits, and bulkheads were sanded down, primed, and repainted, all in phases throughout the year, and are looking brand new. On Promenade Deck, the Queen Mary Archive Museum opened, offering a rare opportunity to admire original artifacts from the ship's history. All kinds of items, some of which haven't been seen since the ship was in service on the Atlantic, are now available for visitors to admire. Inside the main hall, the glass case over the grand staircase now has a replica of Her Majesty Queen Mary's Royal Standard on display. Queen Mary herself presented the standard to the ship in 1936, and after it retired in 1967, the standard was returned to the royal family. So this is a view that hasn't been seen in almost 60 years. In the main lounge, today known as the Queen's Salon, the gesso artwork titled Unicorns in Battle was restored by KC Restoration at a cost of $51,979, money that was donated by QMI Restore the Queen and the Queen Mary Heritage Foundation, nonprofits that raise money for the preservation of the ship. In 2025, broken light fixtures over the second-class staircases were fixed. Up on Sundeck, the veranda grille had its rotting exterior doors replaced with new weather-resistant doors with a faux wood veneer. The previous doors were not original to the ship. They were installed in the 1970s. Throughout 2025, management went around the entire ship, replacing old signs with new ones that feature a cohesive Art Deco design inspired by the sunburst in the artwork over the first-class restaurant, known today as the Grand Salon. Some of the signage is informational and features a QR code so that you can listen to an audio description on your phone of the historic item or place you are observing. On Sundeck, one of the staircases leading to the elevated interior was replaced with a wheelchair lift, making this the first time in history that a person confined to a wheelchair could explore the outdoor promenade. The third funnel was repainted for the second time in 2 years due to a botched paint job in 2024. Red is the chosen color because it fades more slowly and gracefully than orange. Don't expect them to go back to Cunard orange because they are trying to synergize with the modern Cunard red. Down on our deck, Jackie's Spirit Shop opened in the former third-class dining room, allowing visitors to walk in a section of the dining room for the first time in decades. Last year, the forward mast on the ship was repainted for the first time in decades. It had not been touched even when the ship received its last full paint job in 2018. Lifeboats 2 and 3 were given red canvas covers to prevent further deterioration from the weather. The former drawing room of the ship underwent its next phase of restoration to make it look more like it did in the 1930s. It is now an art museum showcasing artworks that once decorated the ship. They were brought out of the archives and put on display here. The old coffee stand in front of Promenade Cafe was expanded to become the Jubilee Market, a coffee and concession stand. It opened on December 9th. The midship market, which had been selling Starbucks coffee up until this point, closed to be converted into a new sandwich shop. We'll talk more on that in a few minutes. The London town area out in the parking lot was demolished and paved over, and so was the abandoned ticket booth nearby. This helped clean up the neglected feel of the parking lot area. Also in the parking lot, a ceremonial groundbreaking took place on what's been dubbed the Long Beach Bowl, an 11,000-seat outdoor amphitheater that will not only bring more crowds to the ship, but a percentage of the profits will go towards Queen Mary's restoration. In early 2025, the city of Long Beach had announced that the removal of the abandoned submarine would happen either in late 2026 or early 2027. Though there is no official date, it must be stated that the submarine will definitely be removed in time for the Olympics in 2028. That was all the major repairs and news updates from the year 2025. I didn't even cover the ongoing basic maintenance, like repainting the steel machines and bulkheads on sun deck and sports deck, or even the polishing of wood panels that hadn't received TLC in decades. There is just so much ongoing maintenance day to day that I couldn't possibly cover it all in one video. It seems 2026 will ramp up with much larger projects underway. Just days ago, I had been able to interview Queen Mary's managing director, Steve Coloca, and get well versed in major insider news regarding the ship's restoration. The message he wanted to convey to everyone is that even if something is awaiting restoration, the important thing to remember is that their goal is to eventually make the ship look like she did when she was in service. So just because something isn't on the production line doesn't mean it's off the table. Here's an update of all the things happening on the ship right now as of January. Up on the outer decks of the ship, miles of original teak handrails have been sanded, restained, and then lacquered, just as they would have been in the ship's sailing days. Yes, I know many carpenters and craftsmen would be saying that teak doesn't need to be stained and lacquered. However, this was how the handrails were done from 1936 to 1967. This is historically accurate. And frankly, it makes the ship look years younger. The handrails up and down sun deck, both port side and starboard, as well as the aft outdoor decks, all had their handrails done just days ago, and it looks amazing. Way up on the bridge deck, the neglected bridge wings are finally undergoing repair, and the teak decks on this whole level will be getting refreshed. Even inside the wheelhouse, all of the brass has been shined up. A few years ago, we walked inside the wheelhouse to see that all of the brass was buffed to a cloudy appearance, but that's been corrected in recent days. On main deck, just off the grand staircase, the travel bureau has been opened up a little further, allowing people to step halfway inside. We asked Steve Coloca what this was about, and he was happy to announce that the travel bureau will once again be used as it was designed for. If anyone visiting the ship wants to book local activities or even trips to Catalina Island, they will find the information here at the Travel Bureau. This is a wonderful way to breathe new life into this historic space. All around the interiors and exteriors of the ship, new maps have been recently installed to help visitors find their way around. The propeller room recently received new information wraps on the walls to improve the space, and Steve Coloca says that work to enhance the propeller room is still ongoing. And lastly, as we mentioned earlier, the midship market has closed to become the new sandwich shop to support the first phases of the Long Gallery restoration. That news about the Long Gallery leads us into the final segment of this annual repair update, starting with one of the biggest pieces of insider information that Steve Coloca has provided. He announced that the first phase of the Long Gallery restoration will involve taking down the temporary wall that divides the Chelsea restaurant entrance and the Regent Room. New furniture will be installed in this open area, recreating the aft half of the Long Gallery, and will act as an anteroom for Chelsea's, Sir Winston's, and the veranda. When your reservation for Sir Winston's is ready, you will be able to enter the nearby staircase and elevator and take it up to Sir Winston's, which will require restoring the historic elevator and extending the shaft up one level. The first phase will begin later this year. The completion date is unknown. This is big news because for decades, the staircase at Prom Deck and Sun Deck has been closed and the adjacent elevator has been retired since 1967. But it is slated to come back. You will no longer need to brave the cold or rainy weather to climb the exterior staircases to Sir Winston's. You'll be able to ride up to it in style. This also means that guests using wheelchairs can experience the restaurant for the first time in its history. Another item we got an update on was the observation bar. Sometime this year, the fan-favorite cocktail lounge will get all new carpets and furniture. Steve and his team discussed replicating the original rub-oleum floors with modern linoleum, but ultimately determined that due to the frequency of hosting live music in the lounge, carpets would help dampen the sound so it doesn't spread so sharply across the ship. That being said, he wants the new carpets to have the same color and pattern as the original rub-oleum. The new furniture will include exact replicas of the original bar stools, as well as new chairs and tables that are reminiscent of the originals, but might not be exact replicas. The nearby drawing room will undergo its next phase of restoration in the next 90 days to bring back the Kenneth Shoesmith folding screen, which is undergoing art restoration. For many years, it was speculated that this art piece was lost or perhaps so badly damaged that it was hidden away. But Steve says that it's actually in excellent condition. They're only doing the art restoration to make sure it looks its best. The idea is that when a tour group enters the room, the tour guide will be able to open the panel doors to reveal the Madonna of the Atlantic behind it, bringing back this little taste of history. One of the top priorities for restoration is the main lounge's damaged wood paneling. Decades ago, the neglected upper decks allowed water to leak into this room, wetting the wood paneling and forming white, cloudy mildew. For the most part, the wood doesn't appear to be fully rotten. Professional wood restorers could carefully remove the varnish and restore the wood. Steve says they've already begun the bidding process to hire a restoration company. Another project people have been asking about for years is the restoration of the first-class swimming pool down on our deck. Steve clarified that the pool will never be swimmable again. However, they are saving up money to conserve and beautify what is currently there, and to make it accessible for visitors to walk in and see. He hopes this is another one of those projects that can be completed in time for the 2028 Olympics. When it comes to the synagogue on B Deck, talks are underway with Jewish temples and organizations to bring back some of the historic artifacts of the synagogue in order to return the room to how it looked in 1936. The ship already has many of the original wood panels, and the synagogue room itself was recently cleared out. A start date is unknown, but they are hoping to start as soon as possible. During the interview, I suggested to Steve Koloka the restoration of the second-class library, and he was really intrigued by the idea.
It could be. It's nothing that it's not in our playbook. It's not on our plan right now, but it could be. By you saying that right now, I'm thinking, you know what, that could be pretty cool. You just maybe if you make it all glass, and you can look at it and see all the beautiful books. Or bordered by beautiful wood. I think that's definitely a possibility. I didn't think about it, so it's not like I had it planned, but that's actually a pretty good idea.
The room has little to no damage to speak of, and the only thing missing is books. They have the rest on the ship already. Steve considered that they could install plexiglass partitions to allow visitors to admire the room without disturbing it. Due to the simplicity of restoration, it's possible that this could be a space we'll see again sometime soon. There is no date set for work on the lifeboat project. The The reason the lifeboats were removed a few years ago was due to neglect by previous operators. Seasonal rainwater runoff had rotted away the base of the davits on promenade deck, undermining its strength and structural support. This caused the weight of the lifeboats and sun deck itself to be transferred to the promenade side shell plates, which caused further damage by cracking and breaking the high-strength windows. 20 of the lifeboats were removed, and of that 20, 11 had to be cut up and discarded because they were not deemed salvageable. However, 2 lifeboats remain on the ship, 1 remains on the dock, and 8 more are sitting in a city storage yard awaiting restoration. The city of Long Beach estimated that the cost of restoring the davits, repairing the side shell plates, and strengthening the remaining lifeboats for display on their original davits will cost upwards of $12 million. Therefore, this project is not a high priority, but it is not off the table. Steve Kaloka says that the City of Long Beach and Queen Mary Management both share a common goal, to eventually make the ship look just like she did when she was in service. This isn't a goal that can be achieved overnight, but they have an incentive to get a lot of projects completed before the 2028 Olympics. Several competitions will be held in Long Beach, and the eyes of the world will be seeing Queen Mary on their TV screens, and Long Beach wants their city icon to be in the best shape it can. I highly suggest you watch the full interview with Managing Director Steve Kaloka on episode 11 of our Queen's Cross podcast. When he talks about the ship, you can hear how passionate he is about restoration, and you can see that he is the kind of person who gets things done. 4 years ago, the management team on the ship inherited a neglected hulk. Slowly, they've brought the majestic queen back from the brink of death and breathed new life into her. She's now almost always bustling with visitors, and despite the extensive cost of repairs and restorations, they've managed to do all of it while turning a profit. Profits which have been channeled back into the restoration efforts. The Queen Mary is now paying for her own restoration, and it's a formula that just 5 years ago many people doubted was possible. But as I said in my very first video about the ship half a decade ago, if you just put a little effort back into the ship, she'll do the rest, and she can be successful again. We've seen the proof that this is indeed the case. The ship is experiencing a renaissance right now, like we haven't seen in 30 or even 40 years, and the best is yet to come. For the last bit of interesting news, after 20 years, the RMS Queen Mary had a royal rendezvous with her younger counterpart, RMS Queen Mary II. The Queen Mary II is the very last ocean liner still sailing the seas today, and arrived in Long Beach in the early morning hours of February 2nd, while stopping off on her world cruise. The two ships exchanged greetings with the song of their typhoon whistles. QM2 carries one of Queen Mary's 3 original 1936 typhoon whistles and used that to blast responses to the elder liner's calls. If you'd like to learn more about the history, design, engineering, or restoration of the Queen Mary, I have a free online Queen Mary encyclopedia, rmsQMwiki.org. Information on rmsQMwiki is growing every single day. If you want to give a tax-deductible donation towards the Queen Mary's restoration, visit qmi.care. And in case you're curious, we give news updates about the Queen Mary at the beginning segment of every Queen's Cross podcast episode. So that's how you can stay informed until the next annual repair update in 2027. We also keep rmsQMwiki updated with the latest major restoration projects. That's all for this annual repair update. What do you think of all the work that's been done and is slated to begin this year? Let me know in the comments below, and remember to click the like button on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more history and updates on the Queen Mary. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.